I saw a question the other day on Reddit, and it was in one of the gaming subreddits, and they asked if anyone's ever been gotten aroused from a video game. So I'm just curious, has that ever happened to you? Have you ever anything in a game and you're like, wow?
Shit, I'm trying to think. I can't remember. I can't remember anything that would have it was always funny to me because the shit I'll never forget is good old classic days of gaming with the Tomb Raider when the first one came up. Of course, as soon as that shit hit PC, what was the first thing everybody did? Let's mod it and add some. Let's make her naked.
Yeah, we gotta see those hookers naked. If you're gonna shake that money, make it for real.
Those fucking triangular boobs. They needed to see them naked. Which, by the way, I will say this: the funniest cosplay I've ever seen was this girl that she dressed up like Lara Croft. But she inside of the shirt and everything made it out of cardboard, so it was triangular and square how it was in the original game. And her guns were just big squares, like it was in the game and shit. And I was like, yo, that is the best freaking cosplay ever.
Well, I don't know if I was aroused by this, but in Heavy Rain, where you actually controlled the sex scene in that one, was just weird. It's
I haven't gotten there yet.
You were moving around the analog stick, and then you were hitting all these buttons. It was kind of when I actually did have sex for the first time, confusing, and I was very, very scared. Back with a new show deep in the basement. Professionalism turned off, screw the ad placement. Skit comedy trolling, plate full of dough. People get offended, you don't get the show. And welcome to another You Don't Get the Show. I'm J.A., he's Randy. What's up?
What's up, player?
All right, we're back on our old format. We're going to give this a try again, see if we don't get that super pixelated boobs going on thing. So we'll see how that works out.
But very funny. Speaking of old school Tomb Raider.
Yeah, right. But yeah, I think that today is one of those days where we're going to end up offending somebody, because this topic that Randy sent to me is just too crazy. Because we've always heard about people that have shady practices. People get upset about charging things, going after gamers, trying to get every little nickel and dime out of them. But I think this one takes the cake. But Randy, since you brought this to me, why don't you lead us off with what's going to be our topic for today?
Okay, so I don't know how many people out there have seen it, but apparently there is a site out there called G2A.com. So G2A.com is essentially a site that you can, if you have, let's say, a CD key, and let's do the way it's supposed to go.
Yeah, the right way?
The right way. So let's say you buy yourself a video card and you already own the game that they give you a free CD key for. So what G2A essentially is a site where you can sign up as a seller. You can sit there and say hey, I have a key for this, game for this region or whatever, and you can set a price for it and sell it. That is supposed to be how the site goes. What has actually apparently happened in the site, and I've seen the site and all that, is it's turned into a gray market where people will go on the darknet, get stolen credit cards, buy a crap ton of CD keys, and then they'll sell it, flip it and try and sell it and make a profit. So the kind of thing about this is that this started happening. You had a whole bunch of YouTubers that first started, sponsoring G2A, and then they actually stopped because they kind of realized, wait a minute, there's some weird shit going on, because you ended up having a whole bunch of these indie developers that actually, there was one indie developer, I can't remember what it is. It's all in the links that I'm sure we'll link in the bottom. They had to shut their doors because of how many keys got bought with stolen credit cards, and then they got chargebacks on these things. So as time has gone by, the company has this like shady thing that they have called G2A Shield, which is a monthly subscription that they guarantee that the key that you're going to get is not going to get deactivated. Now, interestingly enough, Ubisoft came under a lot of heat when they deactivated a whole bunch of keys that were bought with stolen credit cards, and it just so happened that people bought these keys through G2A.com. So, of course, internet got in an uproar. Hey, my CD key got deactivated and blah, 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 blah. So they ended up having to reverse all those keys and make them active again, which was kind of fucked up. Fast forward, you have all these like keys that are going through this. The G2A Shield essentially is a subscription-based thing that you sign up to that says like, okay, if you get a CD key and it gets deactivated, they'll provide you with another key. So like you stay the game. Now, the thing that was funny is it's kind of shady because it charges you a couple bucks a month. That's pure profit that goes to this G2A.com.
Yeah.
And then on top of that, if let's say you're like, cool, I bought this one CD key, I had the G2A Shield on it, I want to unsubscribe on it, you have to go through these like 20 different pages of things that you have to click of like, no, I want to cancel it. And then why am I doing it? Because I don't need it. Okay, so, but you're going to save so much. No, it's okay. Like, it's this huge fucking process.
It's like unsubscribing from porn when you accidentally click on one of those porn advertisements. Exactly. You just go down the rabbit hole of shit.
Yeah, you're fucking in the rabbit hole. Before you know it, it's worse than fucking, you know, the fucking Alice in Wonderland. You're fucking going around. You have no fucking idea where you are and shit. And you're like, Jesus Christ, I'm going to have to cancel my credit card to get this shit to stop. So it's interesting enough that after quite some time that this was going on and, you know, G2A kind of responded, hey, we're just monitoring this stuff. We're doing this. We're doing that. What's interesting is Total Biscuit, who is really like, he's really great in content that he puts up on YouTube. He puts reviews and puts all this up. Literally put out a thing right after Gearbox actually announced that they were doing an exclusive deal with G2A for the collector's edition of Bulletstorm. And in his video, he basically said, thanks to this partnership, if they're going to really go through with this, I'm never going to review another Gearbox game. And like, he started like putting all this shit out there. Gearbox finds this out, like, you know, apparently they must have watched his videos, and they like put out a thing directly to him saying like, if you can provide us with, you know, evidence that this is actually going on, like, we'll look into this partnership. So sure enough,
which I think is funny because if you look at before, there was all types of people that had disparaging things to say about G2A. There already been, like you said, indie developers that have had problems with it. But Gearbox is like, hey, Total Biscuit, you do the investigation. That's just awesome.
Right. That was what was really funny. That Gearbox just like, if you have any evidence, hey, forward it to us. So what started to be funny about this is, and this is where I got a chuckle, is like, so the company that struck this deal with this shady company didn't do any research or anything like that. They had a YouTuber do the research for them and link all this evidence. So he had like compiled a fuck ton of different things, like different developers that wrote articles through like Destructoid and all these things.
He had a dossier like they have on Trump.
Oh, hell yeah. Like even worse than that shit. That's what's even funnier. So then everybody sat there and thought, like, then the ball got into like Gearbox's court, because everybody was like, at this point was, okay, either one of two things is going to happen. Either Gearbox is going to put like an ultimatum, or they're going to say fuck it and they're going to keep going with this deal. And the funny thing is, if you look at it, if they were going to say like fuck it, we're going to go on with this deal, the internet would have been like, all right, fuck you guys, and we're never buying another one of your games. So boom, you probably would have had Gearbox shutting doors. Gearbox ends up putting this like ultimatum where like they had to, within 30 days, basically give everybody every single one of their accounts, free G2A on every single one of the accounts for every CDK they ever bought, and not charge ever again for it. They had to basically like do all this crazy shit. And they were like, all right, the ball's in your court. Of course, what ends up happening, the time limit that they gave them to initially start doing it came and went. Gearbox was like, you know what? We're not going to do this exclusive deal anymore. So I have to tip my hat to Gearbox for doing that. Granted, they did it to cover their own ass, because if not, they probably would have closed up shop.
And sadly, that's the problem. You've seen too many companies lately, especially in the news. You have Pepsi doing things.
Oh, Jesus.
I mean, you have all these companies just making these boneheaded moves, and you're just like, what the hell? And then they have to do some crazy PR stuff to try and fix it. I mean, like, I've seen some of the articles, and I just think it's interesting on one hand that, you know, you'll have someone like Total Biscuit call it out, and then you'll have them run because they realize, hey, this guy has an audience. And the problem is that if other smaller places didn't call it out, they probably wouldn't have done anything. And they still required, you know, Total Biscuit to provide them with like all this evidence when they should have been doing this research in the beginning before they even made any type of deal with them.
And that was the thing that was kind of funny, which a lot of people were kind of saying like, okay, that's kind of interesting that they didn't do any research into it. So that was why I think, like, also when you look at it, is like that could have been something really bad for them if they like would have kept going with this. But anyway, so deal falls through and all that. Now, I have been watching this and I'm like, man, this is so funny. Like all this different stuff that has happened with this. This is hilarious in of itself. Fast forward to, I want to say it was the 20th of this month, and I'm looking at it now. There was a indie developer conference called Reboot, and just so happens that in one of the panels, they invited one of the head guys, like PR guys, or I don't know what his title is, in G2A to sit at a panel full of a room full of indie developers to talk about G2A. Now, it's funny because they live streamed it on Twitch. I gave you a link to the video, and literally it is the first 40 minutes of the video is the entire interview. Now, it's hilarious because, number one, the guy sits there and kind of tries to like brush off everything like, oh, no, we've always been doing a legitimate business and blah, 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 and people just don't understand our business model. The part where it got really, really funny was he literally says, like, I don't understand why everybody's blowing up this thing out of proportion over some comment that a guy made on YouTube, number one, which is hilarious.
That's awesome.
That's hilarious. Number two, then he starts trying to explain like, oh, we have all these like anti-fraud things up and blah, 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 and this and that, and we're here for you guys, and we're trying to help you out. And if you guys sit there and notice that these keys are illegally purchased, just let us know. We'll reach out to you. We'll stop the funds from going to them. And it's funny because in part of the evidence that Total Biscuit put in, the indie company that shut down did send an email to them saying, hey, these keys were illegitimately bought. Like, and at that point, they had already given the seller the money and all that. And they basically just ignored this indie developer. And it was so funny because you can see the whole time he's talking, and the guy that's leading the panel is just asking him these questions, and he's talking, and you could just like looking at the video, they don't even show the audience, but you could tell as this guy's answering these questions, you could just feel the tension in that room just building.
All developers are just seething. It's
yeah.
like the Sith just in there.
Exactly. You can it, like, it's so thick in the air. You can like feel it come through your monitor in this interview. And then at least at that, believe it's around the 30-minute mark. I'm not sure, but they decide like, hey, let's open it up to a Q&A session. And we'll have people ask questions. Yo, the best comment was, there's a guy that he sat there and said, you know, one of the guy, his question was, obviously you charge customers who want to avoid fraudulent stuff with the G2A Shield system. It says, you asked us to contribute our time and energy to detect fraud on your system for 10%. He's like, I'm interested in what the 750 people who work at G2A, 40% of whom are women, because he made this like point also to point out how like 40% of the workforce at GTA were women.
Okay.
He's like, are doing to earn the 90% of the transaction. So apparently in their model, 10% goes to the developer, 90% stays with G2A. The guy sits there. His answer is, well, there are people working in marketing. And at that point, the guy asking the question just laughed out loud and then sat there and was like, marketing? He's like, is it really all going to marketing? You know? And then the guy from G2A says, no, actually, IT and security. which is the whole reasoning why this whole shit started happening.
I don't understand how they even charge somebody for security. Like, I was reading about that, and it's funny because I was reading that they did an AMA on Reddit, and they got destroyed on Reddit too, because I don't know, again, this is like poor planning, because I don't know who thought to themselves, hey, let me go into a place that's going to be full of gamers who hate me and try to answer these questions. But they were talking about that, how are you going to charge somebody extra money to provide just basic security that you'll get the key that you paid for?
Yeah, and the crazy thing about it is that they're now going into this whole thing of like, oh, we're here to protect the security of the developers and blah 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 from this like gray market, and literally everybody in the internet is screaming is like, you guys helped to create this gray market, and now you're doing all this crazy shit to like seem like you're the good guys. You know, they were like, if that company wouldn't have been around to begin with, they wouldn't have had this whole thing to worry about.
Yeah, and like for instance, there was one of the developers you were talking about was Manga Gamer, and they basically had like a really niche kind of like interactive, I guess, kind of like video watching game. So they were trying to like promote that. So they had all these keys that ended up getting stolen because someone, like you said, used a stolen credit card and bought it and then sold it on their service. And it was like, oh, well, too bad. And it's like, that's, you know, thousands, maybe even $100,000s of dollars for, you know, this little company. Right. And because of that, they get screwed. And there's been other companies like that. It's funny because on some of the interviews that I was reading, they were talking to other indie developers and asking them about what do they think of this service and this company, and they all had bad things. And it's funny, one of the funniest parts is one person said that they rather have it that if you're a gamer who's poor, doesn't have the money, they rather have you pirate their game than go through G2A and buy it. That's how much they hate these guys.
Yeah, no, and so now I looked it up. The indie developer that had to close down was Tiny Build.
It talked about them too.
Yeah. And that sucks because I actually bought one of their games, that Party Harder, and it was a great game. Like, I really liked that game. Like, it was, you would think looking at the game, you're like, oh, that game's kind of shitty. It is a fun ass game because I don't know if you've ever played that game. It is essentially a game where you're a guy that lives in a house and your neighbors started to throw a party really early in the morning. So your character gets sick of it. So you go next door to try and kill everybody at the party.
Oh, damn.
To stop the party. But the thing that's funny is like, it's a tactical thing where like, not only do you have to like kill the people, but then you have to hide the bodies. So like, you'll wait for people to like go off into the bathroom to go puke, and then you sneak into the back room and kill them. And then like, you got to go out. And the thing is like, if any of the live ones see a dead body, they'll run to the telephone and call the cops. So then you got to sit there and like mingle in with the party so that they don't realize it's you that's actually doing all this. And it has these like little interactive things, like you can drop food, rat poison into the food, and people start eating it and dying, you know. And it's all like pixelated art, but it is like a good little strategy game because you got to like figure out like, how am I going to get to this guy? How am I going to get to this guy with nobody seeing you? Because that's the big thing is if somebody sees you do it, they'll go running to the phone. And you got to make sure you stop them from calling the cops, or because if not, once the cops get there, they're coming right after you. You know, it is hilarious in a great game, but it's like, it sucks that like this poor small indie developer had to basically, you know, close down because of the crap that happened at G2A. Like they're sitting there and they calculated out they lost $450,000 worth of revenue through keys that got sold on G2A because they were bought with stolen credit cards. And that's huge for a small indie developer.
Oh yeah, exactly.
you know.
And what's interesting is, so when they did this AMA and they were talking about that, one of the people asked about, the security and all that, and the representative basically was saying that, oh, we have this just strict verification process that protects people and it protects the developer and all that. And what happened is the guy who did that actually went and said, no, that's not true. Once you get a key verified, it's very easy to get all the rest of them verified. So all you have to do is maybe sell like one legit key, and then you can all of a sudden just switch and start selling stolen keys. And the guy even proved it by creating an account and doing just that. And then what did G2A do? They just ended up locking that specific account. And it's like, this is exactly why people hate you.
Yeah, and that was the thing that was funny is in that question and answer thing, somebody tells him that, like, what's to stop somebody from selling a whole bunch of keys? And he's like, oh, we have a system that if somebody tries to sell like 100 keys all at once, like it'll lock them out of the system or whatever. And he's like, you sit there and you look at him like, yeah, that's great, but what if the fucking guy figures out the magic number that he can start selling, creates, let's say it's 10 keys, he's got 100 keys, he'll just create 10 accounts and sell 10 keys each account. And it's like, he's still getting rid of his 100 keys. He's getting his money. And the thing about it is that they don't lock the funds until one of them gets reported from the developer that, hey, it's an illegal key. Like it's a key bought with stolen credit card.
And the funny thing is like they also talked about in the AMA where they have over 100 people, at least at this time, which I think was in February of 2016. And they were talking about how they have like 100 people working on security of their marketplace. Now, also, you said they have like, what, over 400 people and like such a high percent of women. I don't know if that necessarily translates to what they're trying to make us think it translates, because there's a lot of companies that can boast about how many personnel they have. But if all of that is to sales or marketing or just making sure that more dollars are coming in, even if you have someone in your security or your fraud protection department, I've seen that also where they're more concerned about protecting the company from being liable than actually going out and protecting the customer from being, scammed. So that's the problem with touting these numbers. What do these people do? Out of this 100, what is this department? What do these people do? What are their actual functions? And of course, they're not going to tell that. They go and say, oh, we can't disclose exactly how we search for these shady people because it could give them the keys to do even more wrongdoing. Obviously, they already have the keys to your shit. So yeah. It's not working, whatever you're doing.
And the thing that's really funny is like in this thing where I saw like where they talked about, the link to the thing is they said the moment that they finished this like Q&A thing, some developers started tweeting on social media about it, and one developer here put, G2A was surprised that Gearbox publicly ended our relationship because of a YouTuber, not realizing that they did so because G2A is shady.
Yeah, I mean, think about the service for people that don't know. So you could have a company that has extra keys, or you could even have extra keys. So if you're doing it legitly, it's not a problem. And it's also good for the gamer, because say a game is sold on Steam, GOG, or whatever for 20, 30, 40, 50 bucks, but this person has a key, can sell for half price, 80% off even if they want to, and all of a sudden you get the game. So if you think about it, in essence, that sounds great for the gamer who doesn't have a lot of money, but it's also easy to get these alpha nefarious means. And then what happens is that these keys get banned, they get cut off, and you suffer, and you have nothing to, no way to get your money back. Maybe if you could do a chargeback of your own, or you have to pay to have protection. And it's very, very simple why people are upset.
And that's the thing that gets me is like, when you look at it, how they want to tout it, like the legitimate way of touting, like it makes sense. Like, oh, I bought this video card, I already own this game. You know what? Like you say, you could sell it for half off. That's still money in your pocket because it didn't cost you anything for the game. So like, oh, $60 game, I'll put the key on sale for 30 bucks. That's 30 bucks in my pocket. Even if they take, let's say 10% of that, that's still 27 bucks in your pocket that you didn't have. legitimately, if they do it like this, yeah, it's a sound business. You don't need to have this like fraud protection thing where it's going to get banned because it's a legitimate key. But of course, it's like where there's the will, there's the way. People are going to figure out like, how can I get these keys and not have to pay for them, you know, and then make their money off it. And that's where the downside of this whole thing is that they did this like this, you know, and it created such a crazy market for these keys. And then like they're like going around making it like, no, we're the good guys, we're trying to protect you guys. It's like, you done fucked up now.
You know what we need some of these spokes guys to go fly United.
Yeah, that's what we need. Get the ass whooped. That's what it is.
I mean, this has been like a couple of weeks of just companies just fucking up, man. I mean, damn.
I still laugh at like the more the shit comes out of that United thing, where they were like, we're gonna investigate it, and this is shocking, and then they get the internal memo of like, well, these employees did what they needed to do. Fuck that guy, and then he has to come out and be like, well, we didn't mean it in that way. How the fuck do you think you meant it? It's like, Jesus Christ.
I'm sorry, he was a habitual line stepper, and we had to whoop his ass. You know, that's the United way.
It's like, Jesus. So like the thing that's funny about it is like you sit there and if you look at it, and then what I love about it is they started digging up into the doctor's past. They're like, oh, yeah, that's the reasoning why like he was. It's like, look, let's face facts. The dude's a doctor. He had patients he had to get to. That I think, even if the computer would have randomly generated and said like, hey, sir, you need to go. And he's like, look, I'm a doctor. I got patients that I have to see. I need to go there. That should have been reason enough to be like, oh, you know what? Cool. And they should have randomly picked another passenger and been like, all right, you're going.
And look,
you know?
what happens is this all comes down to money, because like many of people have commented with United Airlines and all these other companies, if they would have kept going on the bidding, because apparently there's a limit there's a limit of how much they can go up, but they are allowed to go higher than that, but they can't be forced to go up. And I think it was like $1,300 or something like that. Mm-hmm. They didn't even get close to that. But if they went and kept going, you're going to get someone eventually. Now, maybe you're starting at $500-600 and a person's like, no, I'm not interested. But you start getting a $900, $1,000, $1,200, $1,300, you're eventually going to get some volunteers. You don't just cut that shit short because you're like, you know what? I could save some money and then just start randomly picking people to kick off or beat the hell out of and kick off my flight. And that's the same thing with these other companies. When people talk about like how many personnel, like I just thinking about that again, when they say, oh, we have X number of employees, how many people out there work at a company that purposely understaff because they know they can save money? And who ends up suffering? You suffer and the customer suffers, because there's not going to be enough people to help them. They're going to be more upset. And when they get to you, they're going to be upset. Like, why was I holding? Why did it take so long to get this done? Whatever field you are in, you probably have some company that's understaffing. So when these people tout high numbers and say, oh, we have X number of employees, I guarantee you the only way they're doing that is if it's in a department that's specifically making them money or helping with the bottom line. It isn't because of some kind of, good feelings or some great company policy out there.
Yeah, no, and that's the thing is like you see this shit all the time with different companies, like for Starbucks, and for crying out loud, where they were like talking about how like they would have like 1 or 2 people working in the Starbucks, and then it would get super busy and you had to wait 15 minutes for your drink. And it's like, and they're basically like, yeah, they're cutting our fucking hours. Like, there's nothing we could do. And it's like, you can only go so far before it's like, hey, guess what? You're going to keep, like, this is the shit that I saw when I worked at GameStop is, oh, we don't have enough payroll, cut back hours, schedule less. Now you're getting them having the salaried person work way more. You don't have as many people in the store. So now your chance of theft goes up. And then you have that part where it gets busy and a person has to stand in line for half an hour to get help because, hey, I only have 1 person here, 2 people here.
Yeah, don't you love when you go to like any type of department store? And this is another reason why those brick and mortar stores are dying. And their customer service line is usually the longest line, and there's one person behind there. And I mean, the line's like going around the corner, and heaven forbid they have some kind of sale or it's close to like some holiday where you're used to buying things. You're going to be sitting there waiting. I mean, here in Miami, you have Winn-Dixie, who they ended up putting in those automatic tellers, which personally I like because I'm just in there and I'm quick. I know what to do. But let's face it, a lot of the public is stupid. Yep, they voted for Trump, so you're all stupid. So what ends up happening is they can't even scan their own equipment in. And like you said, where there's a will, there's a way. There were people going in there and using like double coupons because the system was easy to trick and do all types of things where you ended up being able to steal so much money and products from the company. So they ended up shutting a bunch of them down. And then while this is going on, while you have maybe 4 of these automatic stations, they would only have 1 open actual person at a register. So for everyone who didn't want to use a computer, which here, in Miami, you got a lot of old people, they're all packed up like they're in the welfare line waiting to talk to a real human being while we got, freaking yakety sacks going on over at the automated teller. So it's all over the place here.
It's funny that you say that. That reminds me. So the GameStop that I worked at was on like the border of Hialeah and like Overtown.
Oh shit. That's like hell in West Hell.
Dude, it was hilarious because I remember we had a Walmart behind us, and Walmart, they did the same shit. They put like 6 self-checkout lanes, and I walked in there when they first opened them up, and I'm like, I wonder how long these shits are gonna be here for. Right? Dude, I went back to my store talking with my assistant manager, and I'm like, how long do you think they're gonna have that? He was like, 3 months. I'm like, dude, I give it 1.5, 2 tops. Sure enough, at like 2 months, boop, gone. They were all closed. They were all changed to regular registers. I'm like, I guess they got sick of people stealing shit out of these things.
Oh yeah, those things were so easy to scam. And what's so funny with Winn-Dixie is back in the day, they used to give you these coupons if you spent a certain amount of money. So it'd be like $10 off 100 or $5 off. Guess what someone figured out? If you ran up a bunch of items and started using the coupons and then you would take the items off, it didn't actually remove the coupons. So imagine you scan $100 worth of stuff, you start scanning a coupon. And they had one, like I said, the $5 for 50. Then you start removing all the things, you get down to 50, you scan another one. That's $15 off your bill right there. So people, and then it took regular coupons too. A lot of times you could use other coupons. It also had a bug where certain coupons, it couldn't tell what it was. You ever see those generic coupons that just say $1 off?
Oh, yeah.
Some of those used to work. Now, they eventually patched that one. But you could just swipe a generic $1 off coupon and use that as well. So people were getting away. They'd show like pictures. Of course, they wouldn't use their real account or anything, but they put up anonymous pictures of the receipts. And you'd see like $100 worth of groceries, then like $80 in discounts and coupons. And they paid $20 for it. And it's like, it wasn't to help. See, that's the thing. If they're really trying to help the customer, I'd feel a little sorry for them. But the problem is, this is just to end up screwing the customer and screwing the workers. So fuck them.
So no, this is the shit that I laugh. Now that you say that, the best scam I ever saw was a $5 off a $25 purchase. What the person would do is scan the $5 off, the $5 off coupon, and you know how they would have like, drop your coupon into the slot. They would scan the $5 one, drop another coupon, scan it again, drop another coupon, and scan it a third time, and then finally drop. Like, I was like, daggone. And I saw this woman doing this, and I just looked at her and go, that's a smart idea. I'm like, that's how you loop around the system. And then they wonder why the hell, they got, workers that are all pissed off and shit. It's like, of course, because they don't give a shit. And they put like 6 registers to 1 employee. Like, that's ridiculous, And that's the thing that I laugh at is like the whole like, they want to sit there and do raise the minimum wage to $15 an hour. And I'm like, yeah, that'd be cool. But at the same time, like, people really think that these companies are gonna get just keep the same amount of people. Like, I remember I saw some where they talked about how like. That why do you think McDonald's has in some of their restaurants hey, you can place your order through a little kiosk, and then they just bring you out your food because they're already testing that shit to make sure it works, so that if that $15 an hour shit happens, guess what? Cashiers are no longer going to be in the restaurant. They're going to eliminate them. Yeah. Because they're like, fuck it, we're not going to pay you $15 an hour to fucking punch a bunch of keys. Like, they could teach a monkey to fucking punch the keys.
And the thing is that I think that on things like this, you have to understand that a company is going to find ways to screw you. Now, yes, a company's supposed to make money. Don't get me wrong, okay? I'm not going to be like super socialist guy that says you're not allowed to make money. But let's face it, besides a mom and pop, because everyone will point to that mom and pop and say, oh, mom and pop is trying to support. No, I'm not talking about them. And if there needs to be protections put in place for those specific type of businesses, then fine. But these other companies, it's like with the Healthcare Act. A lot of people have a lot of things about that. We ain't going to go into it. But a lot of people want to a lot of people want to complain about the Healthcare Act, and then they say, oh, it killed jobs. But I mean, you really think that these companies weren't looking for an excuse? Like, they're going to screw you anyway. Even if you got rid of the healthcare thing today, you really think that all of a sudden they're going to be like, oh, well, I'm going to hire back all these people, or anyone that I say that I cut to lower amounts of work time because of it, I'm going to all of a sudden put it back on full time. No, that's not how it works. Like I said, I worked at companies where 9/11 happened, and like a few weeks later, they're talking about we got to cut staff. It's like, your business wasn't even affected by 9/11. So what are you doing? It's because now you have an excuse and an opportunity. And that's going back to like these guys at the G2A. It's always a way for an excuse. And when you get attacked, if nothing else, you turn around and attack. It's just like you said, some YouTuber. It's like, yeah, some YouTuber that tons and tons of people watch and value his opinion. That actually works, and it matters to people. Maybe the Better Business Bureau doesn't work, especially for younger people. But you know, respected YouTubers do matter. So it's not just some YouTuber.
It's and that's the big thing, is like they make it seem like, oh, this guy just made an off comment and now everybody's up in an uproar. No, this guy has been in the gaming industry for quite some time, knows a lot of indie developers, has seen firsthand what this has done to these indie developers. And he's like, somebody's got to draw the line and be like, you know, if you guys aren't going to do it, we're going to sit there and start, you know, the wheel's going to start to get squeaky until somebody decides to come and oil it. And that's, I think, the biggest thing. And that's what makes it funny, is like they created the gray market. Then they're like, hey, we're going to prevent this gray market from happening. You can't fucking prevent something that you helped to start. It's like you go and rob a bank and shit, and then you sit there and you call and say, hey, I saw a sack of money sitting in a thing. You fucking stole the money yourself.
They basically encourage you to rob the bank, and then for anyone who is a customer of the bank, they charge you special. It's not like FDIC insured. They charge you for that. Could you imagine? It's like, I mean, look, I'm sure that they kind of get their money anyway with fees or whatever. There's always some kind of secret way that they could get money. But G2A is like blatant with that shit. They're like, look, we're going to pay because we know that you're eventually going to get ripped off. I mean, damn. But the question is, though, this goes back to the gamers, because it's up to the gamers to make the change. If the gamers accept it, people are going to be doing it. Like, if someone slaps you in your face, you don't do anything about it, you don't even speak up, why should I stop slapping you in the face? So the question is, since people can still go to this site and find lower cost games in essence through these keys, is the business model too good for people to stay away, and you'll just risk it?
And that's the big thing, is like they're making it seem like, oh, we're here to help out the gamer that can't afford every game and blah blah blah, and they're doing that. Look, I'm sorry, like that's the biggest thing. Like, one of the biggest problems that you have nowadays in the gaming world is you will have people that will piss and moan and yell and scream and kick and do all this shit, complain about whatever it may be, like Call of Duty. But if you're not speaking it with your wallet, if you're buying the game and then saying this thing is shit, guess what? They don't give a rat's ass what you say. You still gave them your money. The moment the influx of money stops, that's when they're going to be like, fuck, well, how do we fix this? You know, like, you sit there and you look at it. Look what's happened. Fucking, and going to, of all things, Call of Duty, if you sit there and you look at it, they've been selling Call of Duty forever. They come out with one every single freaking year. And it sells like crazy. And with each new iteration of Call of Duty, the player base after a couple of months keeps dropping more and more and more that are consistently playing. And if you sit there and you look at it, Infinite Warfare came out, sold a fuck ton. But when you see it, how many concurrent users are playing it, it's less users that are actually playing Call of Duty Black Ops 3, which came out the year before. And what's crazy is if you sit there and you look at it, and I have to give it to freaking Activision, the only reason why I think they sold as many copies of Infinite Warfare as they did is because they pulled that bullshit with packaging it with the Call of Duty remastered.
Yeah.
And then on top of that, DLC that sold for the original Call of Duty for $10 for a map pack, these motherfuckers have the balls to be like, hey, we're re-releasing the map pack. Guess what? $15. So they're charging you more for shit that already came out on an old game. And then on top of that, they're like, oh yeah, if you bought the season pass for Infinite Warfare, yeah, it doesn't count for the DLC for Call of Duty remastered. And it's like, are you fucking kidding me? And of course, then people came out and started saying it's shit, it fucking plays like crap, and blah, 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 blah. What's the biggest announcement they did this year? Hey, we're going back to World War II. Yeah. Like, that's going to fucking save that goddamn friend. Like, it's one of those things that I have to scratch my head, and this is the reason why I've been a Battlefield fan forever. And let me tell you, like, Battlefield has had some great games, and they've had some shitty games. I'm looking at you, Hardline.
Oh yes,
that was the one Battlefield that came out, and I'm like, man, like this was that in between, and it's funny because it wasn't the original team that did it too. That's the sad part. And it came out, and it was like, all right, it had some. I want to say it had some good points. Like I like the fact that you didn't have to play 1,000,000 hours to unlock all the guns. It basically gave you money as your quote-unquote experience, and then you used that to buy the guns you wanted to, which I think that was a great step going forward, which they implemented into Battlefield 1. Battlefield 1, with as much as people have complained about it, I've enjoyed it because it's more infantry fighting, which is what made Battlefield fun. The only thing that I think EA needs to look at with Battlefield 1, and it's what a lot of people say, is if you're going to release maps for the game, like make them available to everybody, like just release, like through the DLC, release the exclusive equipment and new guns and stuff like that to people that pay for it, you know, because what's going to end up happening, not everybody's going to get the DLC, and then you're going to segregate your player base into two groups, people that have the expansions and players that don't. And that's what's going to kill the game off. And I mean, if you want a great example of how to do it right, look at freaking Rainbow Six Siege. Rainbow Six Siege, you can sit there and buy the damn the season pass, as they call it, and you get the operators for free. And on top of that, you get the maps for free. You don't buy the DLC, you still get the maps for free, and you can play the shit out of the game, gain in-game currency, and then unlock the operatives as you want. And they're still making a fuck ton of money off of the DLC because people are like, oh, cool, I get the operatives and I get the maps and all that stuff, and I can still play with all my friends and all that. That's why people are still playing that game. You know?
Yeah, I definitely don't. In the end, it just comes down to the player base, the gamers out there, the customers, to vote with their dollars.
Yeah.
You know, it's when you go out, you can't complain about politics if you don't go vote. Well, if you don't do something about the game and game companies that mistreat you, cheat you, scam you, or just do things that piss you off, then you really, posting just on a message board or something is not going to do it. Now, perhaps if you have a large platform like Total Biscuit and you speak out there, it'll work. But besides that, for everyone else out there, you got to vote with your money, man.
Oh, yeah. And I mean, if you sit there and you look at it, like one big point that you're looking at, Titanfall came out. Sold a ton. People were like, oh, the game got stale quick. Titanfall 2 came out. Didn't make that much money because like people were once bitten and they were twice shy, and they were like, oh, I don't know. And I got both. And I think Titanfall 2, like, it was funny because if you remember Woody from Red Eye, the first thing he told me, and I agreed with him, when we first started playing the original Titanfall, is, it's got something to say when you start playing a game and you go, yo, Titanfall 2 is going to be amazing. Because you realize, man, this thing is good, but it needs so much more. And I will admit, Titanfall 2, the moment I started playing it, I'm like, this is how Titanfall 1 should have been. And now you look at EA announcing Battlefront 2. And they're talking about this and talking about that. And it's like, well, you know what? A lot of people bought Battlefront. And there's not that many people. Right. They were upset. And there's not a lot of people that are playing it. And everybody right now is talking like, is Battlefront 2 going to be the next Titanfall 2? Where it's not going to sell that well because gamers are a little gun shy and they're going to wait for reviews and see how it is. And, I mean, it's a shame because, bro, graphics-wise, Battlefront was amazing. And the way that it played was like, I agree, it was a little too casual and this and that. And there were like things that you had to, specifically, you always had to pick, like you had to always pick the jetpack because you needed to. But at least so far what they're saying, like these are our plans for Battlefront 2. It sounds interesting. It sounds like they're moving in the right direction because now I think the big thing is they've given DICE more time to develop it. So they're kind of making it like that Battlefield where they're going to have classes and each class will have access to specific weapons and specific items and shit. And that's, I think, a step in the right direction. But again, we're going to see how gamers vote with their wallet. So it may be a blow-up hit or it may just like fizzle in the pan and go out quick or may not even sizzle at all.
So speaking of sizzle, are you ready for our clickbait of the week?
Oh. This when you sent me this shit, that was fucking hilarious. Let me tell you.
All right. So for those that don't know, our clickbait of the week is where we talk about something that we're actually interested in, but we know that because of the subject matter, you're all going to click on it, especially when we split it up and we put it out there because it always works. I don't know why, but it does. Like I said, as long as y'all keep doing it, so are we. So once again, this is something I thought was interesting, and it comes from the world of Sim 4. So the Sims 4, all right, you might think to yourself, what? I don't play that shit. But guess what? A lot of people do, and a lot of people apparently like to do like all types of sexy things in it. The first thing they start with back in the day with like I think the first Sims even was removing the blur so that you could see the person, the model. And the model had no genitalia. They had like the ass and like kind of like boobs, but nothing like detail. Well, modders, man. Modders, they're like, we can't let this stand. So they went crazy and they started putting all types of skin packs and genitalia and things like that. Now this group, Wicked Whims, they actually put together a way that your characters can have like real graphic sex. I'm talking about full level porno sex. And it's like I said, these things are free. So you could go and find, like I said, it's Wicked Whims. You can go and find it, but it's not safe for work. So just keep this in mind because this is crazy. What's also crazy is that these guys set up a Patreon, and we have one too. You should actually hook us up. But anyway, they have one, and they make over $4,000 thanks to this mod. And look, like I said, it's great. I personally, for research for the show, because it's really important for me to do my due diligence, I have Sims 4, and I got the pack. And not only do you get the pack, but you get other mods that he recommends, like animations. Because he comes with a couple of base animations, but there's more. So there's other modders that created all types of positions. And they have to work in different segments. So like if you played the Sims 4, you'll have like the bed, you'll have outdoors, the floor, the couch, the love seat, the counter. So they put sex scenes all over these, different spots. And then you can even affect like what you wear and how other people react. And will the people that you want to have sex with immediately respond and initiate or not? Do you have to work up to friendship and romance level? And it's really intricate and it's really graphic. And if you just want to have some fun doing that, you should pick it up because it totally changes the idea of Sims 4. What did you think when you looked at it?
I thought it was funny as hell because like it's it's like looking at the interview that they did with Kotaku about it. it's hilarious because like they had it in all this stuff that like a lot of people like wanted. Obviously, if this guy sat there and like, you know, made all these things for it, but it's like it's hilarious to see like all the different things, like reading in this interview that they did with Kotaku, where it's like you can choose like what position. Like, look at this shit. They have the list is hand jobs, foot jobs, oral, condom preferences, group sex, exhibitionism, and procedurally generated dicks, and a lot more. And in the interview, it has like animated gifs of the shit, and I think the best one is the one where it's a dude getting a blowjob from a reverse blowjob from a ghost. So she's basically passing through his body and blowing him from his ball sack out.
Now consider, this is one of those markets driven by demand. So people demanded this, okay?
Exactly.
People look at the Sims and they're like, nah, man, I'm tired of this whoopee where they go under the covers and there's like some weird sounds and stuff. It's like, I want it graphic. And that's exactly what these mods did. They made it graphic. And like I said, I mean, how cool. I understand why these guys are making $4,200 a month. If you can have sex with a ghost, you can have multiple sex. It's even funny. Like Randy was talking about the settings. There's a setting that you can turn on how people react to it. So you'll be outside in the park and you'll be having sex, and you can make it where people will walk by and react to your nudity and the sexual acts. When people walk by, you can right click on them, and one of the options is ask to join in. I'm glad to know that even in the Sims world, permission is the preferable method.
That's funny as hell, man. The fact that these guys like put in like all these different positions and this and that, make it funny as hell.
Yeah, and looking through the anime, because when you look at his main page, Wicked Whims, you can look at that, and then you look at the different animators, and what happens is that they all have different moves, different positions for different locations in The Sims. So they'll show you, they'll put the whole anime give, and you're just looking through it, and then you're just like, oh my god, oh my god, oh my god. I mean, seriously, this is the next level when you got these, and these are good. Like I'm saying, these people put in work. The ones that he recommends on his page are really good ones that look good. It's not like blocky, all broken and crashed in the system, or badly designed. And when you add in the skin packs with realistic skin tones and genitalia and all that, it's damn is all I can say.
So I'm looking at so apparently there was a link to another story where like they said like after 2 years later the Sims 4 sex mods have gotten intense. And it shows some of the pictures of like one of the ones, and one of them it's like a group picture. Or there's a dude that has like a beard and long hair. He looks like Jesus. And in the comment section, someone linked the picture and put, so I guess Jesus attends orgies? And he's like, I feel a little ashamed. He's like, I've never been invited to an orgy, and yet the virtuous Son of God has. He's like, time to go to church.
I saw that picture, man. I just think to myself, man, it sure redefines the saying Jesus comes.
Just seeing that shit is hilarious. And then like they have another one where it looks like it's like this one chick is giving the dude a blowjob or jerking him off inside of his office. And somebody put, this one's the best because of the two casually working in the background. And he put, yes, Laura, this must saw an increase in patient intakes by 6%, and Susan is currently giving Robert an epic blowjob. Any questions?
Yeah, I mean, look, one of the things that I did in my testing, this is only testing for research, guys, so you understand. I threw a party, and it was a costume party, and I just decided to right-click on everybody and start making them have sex. And it turned into Caligula. I mean, I'm not kidding. Everyone's having sex. They're switching partners. And I'm there like, this is pretty awesome, because they started initiating on their own. I loved it because I don't know how they do the sensors of people reacting to sex, because this is all inside my Sims house. People were walking by just on the street, and they'd come in my house. Like, like, hey.
What's going on? What's
going on in this thread? And they walked on it. It's like, hey, the more the merrier. And it was a grand old time. I mean, I really understand why this guy, look, this Wicked Whims guy, it's his full-time job. He has over 1,000 patrons, and he's making, like I said, over $4,200 a month. I mean, look, guys, anyone out there who thinks that gaming isn't a viable career path, I mean, y'all doing it wrong. Y'all doing it wrong.
That's funny.
Oh man. Well,
Oh, Lord.
I hope we achieved what we planned out to do. Do you think we achieved what we planned out to do?
I do believe we have. If not with the story, we definitely did it with the with the clickbait.
Yeah. So you gotta check all that out. But you know what else we're gonna bring you? We're gonna finally showcase our gaming segment, our gaming podcast / video podcast. So you guys are gonna be able to check out Geek Salad really soon. We've been talking about it for a while, but it's actually gonna be premiering very soon, where we're talk about a lot more gaming related topics and not so much clickbait. But you can always come back here for the clickbait.
Yeah, real life got in the way, as it always does.
Yes, definitely. But until next time, I'm J.A., he's Randy, and thanks for watching. So,
peace.